Preparing. We are going live. So, hey, good morning, world. Welcome to this next amazing interview in this series. So today I have Kira Saundra online. I'm really excited and curious to see what she brings in terms of her questions and her conversation, her transmission and reflections, particularly on the decade gone, the decade ahead. So welcome, Kira. How are you?
Hi. It's so good to be back with you. And it's so good to be in Australia. So I landed a few days ago and it's been amazing. It's been incredible. The second I got on the plane, I just started tuning in and really praying and asking permission of the land and asking her what she wants from me and how I can serve and how I can be here. My descending Chiron line runs right through Sydney, the Gold Coast. Byron area. So this is all about how I can be of service and what it is that people really need. Yeah. This isn't necessarily, it's not the personal Chiron line, although I think healing is universal. And whenever we talk about being of service, I think there's always the medicine in reciprocity. But I'm really just excited and anxious, and the whole energetic field opened up right away and throughout my whole body, and being here has been really beautiful, and I've really just appreciated every bit of it and every ounce of it, and having the benefit. I'm staying with a beautiful friend of mine and having the benefit to stay right on Sydney Harbor and Elizabeth Bay and wake up and smell and hear and just see. So I'm very excited to be here, and also very excited to be here for the simple reason, you know, the country's in a state of national disaster. So on top of what the individual needs, how can I best serve the land, and how can I best intertwine my work and be able to give back to what's going on in a way that's really most beneficial. So open to receiving all of that, and happy to, in general, just hold space for people in the state of fear that the country's in. Yeah. That's the essence of shadow work, is we stare down the barrel of fear. So with everyone feeling all of that and feeling so unsafe, how can I be here to help others feel safe in whatever it is that this is bringing up for them? So I'm excited.
So you come in from New York.
Yep.
A little bit different here.
A little bit, yeah. It's interesting because in New York it's 100 miles an hour. You know, the expression in a New York minute, you know, it's half the minute as anyone else in America. So coming here to Australia, it's really interesting to see that the pause that happens here, and really feeling it, and just meeting, you know, some of the locals and walking around and having chats with them, and, you know, how their businesses run, and oh yeah, it's 2, we're closed, we're done. That's great. We're going out. my friend,
the Gold Coast does that even more. Like, yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and my friend that I'm staying with, he's also a native New Yorker, and then lived in Singapore for a while, so he's new to the area. But it's amazing too, because he's having that similar experience, that New York, Singapore, and then moving here and saying like, okay, wow, we really just, it gives us an opportunity to really take a breath.
Yeah. Yeah. And what kind of, I'm sure it'll come back through some of the questions as we get into them, but what kind of feel are you getting from the country and from the consciousness here at the moment? Because I know there's so much going on at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's consciousness. Let's define that first. How do you want to, it's a big question. So tell me, in this context, what consciousness means to you.
I just meant sort of what kind of, like, you're listening to hear what's coming through about being here for the people, the land, and the space. I was just there's a preliminary question on what are you noticing so far is coming through.
There's a big polarity in terms of the national crisis that's happening, and the people that are on the ground with it, and then the people that aren't as affected by what's going on geographically, and they're on holiday. So it's that for me has been very interesting coming through, because there's this, my friends that are on the ground with it, who have their family homes in the line of fire, the ones that I've been talking to. And I mean, that's a completely different energy than here in Elizabeth Bay, of what's going on there. Again, it's really about, there's that sense of, oh yeah, it'll be fine, and kind of checking out and wanting to be on holiday. And then the people that are really in it are terrified. And it's not that I don't necessarily feel that everyone's removed from it or they're denying it, nothing in that way. It's just the sense of the extremes that are happening with it. And inside polarity, right? At polarity, that's where shadow is. So just tapping into really feeling that, into that polarity. And with Australia, there seems to be this never-ending conversation. And again, talking with some other friends of mine that live here, and knowing what I know about Australia's history and tuning in, there's so much conversation around that base chakra, around the Muladhara, around the money stuff. And money is fear. It's the same current. Money and fear, it's the same chakra current. So there's all these belief systems around money in Australia. Also not feeling worthy to earn, having a criminal history, guilt around what happens with the Aboriginals here. This is some of the feedback that I've been getting from people and what they've been feeling, and as to why money is such an important conversation to have here, and the dynamics around earning, creating wealth in that area, building that level of business, or building whatever it is that they want in that level of safety and security. And so when the entire country is terrified, what does that mean for the rest of your life in terms of how that's playing out? So I think for me, hearing and listening, we've got this massive conjunction that is the hot button that everyone's talking about at the moment between Pluto and Saturn. That's exact on the 12th. And there's so much more behind that, which we'll get into. But having all of that, it's this great restructuring. And here it is, this country that has so many belief systems around money and fear and survival in those veins, and it's on fire. So everything is exaggerated and acerbated in that way.
Well, that when you touch on money and the history of this country, is that without getting into a lot of the politics of it, Australia is essentially, in a lot of larger ways, a mine, and that the wealth of the resources, and that's how that's been not cared for. There's been no mindful nurturing custodianship of the resources here. And so the use of money or resources for in a careless fashion is seeing these kind of impacts come back. So even at that larger, not metaphor, but like, I guess the archetypal role Australia plays in a lot of ways is as a mine of resources and of gold and of minerals and coal. And it's the energy and wealth for a lot of places in the planet comes out of here.
Yes. And you have Uluru here, which I'm super excited to visit. I'll be pilgriming there tomorrow with a friend of mine. And we're fasting, and we've been in fast prep also since I arrived. So really being able to tune into the third chakra and really feel all of what that is in the power center, and be there leading up to the 11th. I'll be in Uluru. So feeling into what exactly that feels like and looks like. I'm really excited for that transmission to come through.
Yeah. And what are the energies that run through the third chakra?
So the third chakra is all about power. It is your power center. It's ruled by Mars, the planet Mars. And the third chakra, what's so interesting about it is the shadows around the third chakra is shame and anger. It's your self-identity, it's your ego, it's all of that. It's your resentment, it's this whole, the liver body, the gallbladder, all those different channels. And anger is generally the first spark that something has been violated. And when we're talking about personal power and ego, I mean, this is a whole amazing topic right here, just to get into the power dynamics of the country and of the people and what that looks like in their identity, in the masculine culture here, especially, you know, what that looks like and how that's been forming and breaking down and changing. And for the women, and I mean, all of that I think is super juicy, but that's the third chakra energy and really tuning into that. So it's right now, and the best to my knowledge, because my esoteric knowledge on the chakras of the planet is not, I'm not an expert in that field, but I do understand that originally it was the root chakra, and due to the, you know, the alignments and the way that things rotate and move, it's the third now. So, you know, even thinking about that, you know, having it be the original first chakra, having it be the land of the mines, right? The resources, the money, all of that, and having it be now the power center. You know, what exactly does that look like? And how is the land and the people reclaiming their power? How are they claiming their identity? And you find that different groups of people in America, especially different ethnic groups of people that have a history of slavery or having their power taken away from them, they have third chakra imbalances. So, I mean, that's a question too, to throw back to the audience, you know, what's their relationship with their personal power? What's their relationship with their identity? What's their relationship with, you know, how they, what is power to them? And just from my understanding too, you know, the politics and the government, you know, in Australia, and how people feel powerless in this national crisis and with no proper aid from their government and from their politicians during all of this, is another sense of powerlessness. And when we feel powerless, there's a lot of shame. And when there's shame, you know, you can't earn, you can't thrive, you can't create, you know, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy. It's all those different beliefs.
No one cares, like that kind of headness. And it's amazing how that individual experience is so interconnected with the collective. Like, and so that sort of flow between how our experience of shame maps across to the collective experiences of shame and certain groups being powerless. Like it's very present for me at the moment, just this feeling of interconnectedness and just the flow between self and the group and then back. So God, such a good start. I love this. So just definitely want to welcome everyone who's jumped on and tuned in. Thank you guys for being here. For sure, ask any questions. If you've got them, I'm going to do my best to catch it in and bring them back to the interview. We can do that. It'll be really cool. So, ready to head into some of these questions?
I'm so ready.
Okay, awesome. And of course, we can go tangenting into some of these topics as they come up if they're really alive. I'm really keen for that. So the first one is, what did you love most about 2019?
What did I love? Ooh, tune in for a moment. What comes right to me, and I laugh about it, is I loved the shadow of 2019. I think 2019 brought up everybody's shit and smacked them across the face with it in so many ways. I think 2019 is an entire prep for what's about to happen in 2020. I think everything that happened in 2019 that came across your path that you experienced shock and trauma with, all has to do with this epic karmic clean out that's been happening since the beginning of 2019 when Saturn conjunct the South Node. And here we are cleaning out karma, looking at the past, looking at the past, looking at the past. And it's like, here's this massive setup for what we're optimistically looking at as these new building blocks for what a new paradigm can be. You know, we're done. Things aren't working. And the earth and the collective and the individual, you know, it's all in alignment with this isn't working and we're breaking down structure. And that's what panther medicine, right, in shamanic terms, is the direction of the West. This is about the healing of the divine feminine. The panther comes in to say, you can survive your death, that you can be the phoenix, you know, Scorpio energy, Pluto energy, right? Here we are, we're talking about the Pluto-Saturn conjunction. Literally, it's like these two huge astral bodies in the sky, like squaring off, like round, like sentient rounds, right? They're meeting, they're coming together. And what's so significant about this is that Pluto is sex, death, rebirth. Pluto is transformation. Pluto's Hades, it's the shadow, it's the underworld. It's you know, it's in astrology, you know, Pluto rules the 8th house, it rules Scorpio. And there's 3 archetypes in that. So first is the scorpion, which can kill itself by stinging its own body with its tail. It acts out of spite. It reacts, it's reactive, right? That's the first level of Scorpio. It's like that cold steel blade. It's like, I'll fuck you or kill you. You know, Scorpio wants to own that. It wants to control it. It wants to feel it. It wants to merge. It wants to destroy. That's the Pluto energy. And the second level to that is the eagle, where we come up higher. We have the higher perspective. We can see above the trigger. And then the third is the phoenix, where nothing can kill you, that you're above your death. So it's like we're in this literal phase of this shadow and of the panther medicine. You know, it is this death will not kill you. And it's moving then to this evolution of the north, right? To the ancestors, looking for the higher wisdom and seeing that. And being that this is the time of year in the northern hemisphere of winter, right, where I dwell, it's the time of the ancestors and of the north and of the winter. So it's like, it's such an interesting time, and I'm down here and it's shifted, and it's just, I mean, I'm off on it, but it's that was my favorite bit of 2019, is it really is just this amazing awareness of what the shadow is and what it is that we're clearing out. And if it's not with you in your life right now, if it's not on your wave to surf the black rainbow that we're all on, then it's not going to work out. And things are spinning so fast. If it's really not, if it's not for you, it's gone, it's out, it's done. So many contracts that want to be made, different promises, obligations, things like that. It's like they're not sticking, because so many different things are coming to be cleared and resolved. And so it's so about this art of listening right now, and what it is that we can receive to hear this. Because if we're still stuck in the old paradigm, right, if we're in our Saturn, if we're in that crystallization structure, we're not going to be able to receive that shakeup that's happening now without experiencing so much pain. And that's, I think, too, what's really 2019 was about, is really surfing the black rainbow. It's really navigating the pain body. It's understanding the shadow. It's, you know, what it is that we want to build and create moving forward.
I fucking love that you shared that, and that you shared it that way. In all these interviews I've done, so I've done 4 already, each time I've asked, what did you love most about 2019? The person has shared some version of, I love how everything fell apart. And it's this weird, I'm asking like love, and I'm getting the stuff that didn't work, or the stuff that deconstructed. And I looked back at my own answers, and it was the same. So it is exactly what you shared. It's that it's preparing the way. And what I'm finding now is stuff emerges, and I'm like, I've done this before. I know what to do. I'm like, there's a feeling of readiness in a lot of ways because I already studied whatever, you know, needs to move or break apart. So that's been really cool. Next question. So what did Kathleen say? How passionate are you, Kira? I love your energy.
Oh, thank you. What's her name? Kathleen?
Kathleen, yeah.
Hi, Kathleen. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing your energy with us.
Awesome. So the next one was, what are you grateful to have ended in the past decade?
Oh, God. What am I grateful to have ended in the past decade? I mean, how much time do we have, Sam? I mean, this could go forever. So I am 39. I turned 39 in 2019 in September. And this, looking back at, and first of all, being epically excited and proud to come into the age of wisdom, which I think is such an amazing, infinite, beautiful gift. to come into that next level of maturation. But looking back at my 30s, this is when I completely overhauled my life. The ending of, how about the ending of I'm not good enough? How about the ending that I can't be creative and make money? How about the ending of, being afraid to express my art? How about, the ending of judgment? How about the ending of my fear around being who I am and not being persecuted? All those different things. And, we touched on this before, I'm Pluto and Libra generation. I'm not a millennial. So for me growing up, it wasn't about, there was no hashtag witch. Like, it wasn't a thing. Being who I was and being a kid just meant that I was fucking weird and picked on, and it wasn't cool. It was really, really scary. And I was afraid. I think, and this is another thing 2019 taught me, I think it really shed the light on how much fear that I had as a kid, and how afraid I was and how unsafe I felt in so many different ways, and at home and at school and in life, and the trauma that I've experienced, and just the overall sense of, I don't belong here, and what that does in your conditioning. And as an adult, to break out of that, I mean, I didn't know that this could be a job. I didn't know that this could be my reality. And
magic human is under.
Yeah. I didn't realize that could be really okay. And to not only have that, but to be supported in that. What? I mean, it just brings tears to my eyes of just gratitude, and to be able to connect then with people like you, and to other people that are out there and they care and they're doing the work. Like, that's what, this is the world that we're creating. This is what we're bringing to 2020. And that's such a gift.
It really is. And it's this new, like, I have such a similar feeling of, like, just remembering the childhood and not, like, my core energy didn't fit in somehow.
Yeah.
And that, to know that the children born now, even if they don't find it in their immediate environment, there is a layer of energy where they have space to match us now. It's allowed. There is hashtag witch, or whatever we call it. Yeah. There's so much more scope to fit in when there's this kind of dynamic in your life. Okay, next question. What do you think we learned as a collective last year?
Oh man, what did we learn? I know that, okay, so I'll speak, what came through first is I'll speak on my country. I'll speak on the US. So in the US, 2019 was a lot of realization around how divided people's belief systems are. And it definitely came through after Trump's election. I know we all started seeing that right away. But 2019 was so much frustration and anger and fear. And we're living in a fear vibration right now. Everybody is terrified. They're terrified of a lot of what's happening, and they're terrified of sending their kids to school because they're worried about guns. And they're terrified about, getting pulled over from the cops. The cops are terrified about being ostracized. It's the learning that comes out of that from the people that are paying attention is how much kindness and how much understanding and how much patience we get to have to be able to build the bridges that we want to create our future. And the understanding that the system doesn't work. The system doesn't work, and that piece of knowledge has spread far and wide in 2019 in the US. And there are so many perceptions of what the quote liberal states look like in America, and the liberal states are the most policed. It's very interesting how the dichotomy works. And for me, I don't get involved in the politics because then I become unsafe to anyone. And my job is to be safe for people. That's the real learning. The learning was, you know, what kind of bridge can we build to better understand each other? Because right now we're so far apart.
Mm. And how do you think we're going with those bridges?
I think the more awareness and the more conversations that can be had are obviously the better. In my heart, when I speak on it, I feel a lot of personal frustration because I think there's still the majority of people that don't understand that creating more polarity is only hurtful. And in their best wholehearted attempts to do the right thing and to bring awareness to social justice and causes, it's just a projection of their own anger from feeling powerless in their own life. And they're just creating more polarity. The more you divide us and create little groups, it doesn't build the bridge. You know, it's so important to, yes, raise awareness on certain trials and tribulations of many different ethnic groups, of many different social groups. At the same time, I think putting lots of different titles around things separates. And I think if we can remember that we're more alike than we are different, and that we're all afraid, we all have love, and we all want to be loved for who we are, you know, that's the first step to building that bridge. And then it can be, then the question is, when you start moving past that, which are most of the clients I work with, you know, when they move past that acknowledgement already, is, okay, wait, who am I really? And then how can I serve? How can I make my art in the world? You know, that's that next level of development. And I'm fully holding the vision that this is where we're at, and that more and more and more people are unplugged and they're saying, okay, I totally get it's not working. So what do I do? And the first answer I have to that, to my clients and to most people, is, have you died yet? have you let go? Have you let go of who you thought you had to be?
Such a huge question. And it ripples out all over everything. Like the grip we have on our reality of all those shoulds just has such a rigidness to it that, as you said, when we let go, it opens up space for ourselves and our own life and happiness, but that spaces between us can emerge that weren't there before. Like, and I think that's the real beautiful gift of that kind of question. Yeah. And it's not sacrificing what we want for what others are, but let go of the story of how my life had to go so we can create something different for all of us.
Yes, and it changes all the time.
Yeah.
This is the big mailer too that needs to go out to everybody. Okay, after this happens, there's still more to go.
There's no end.
There's no end. This is all part of it. You know, I say to my clients all the time, you know, Panther's a death program. It's going to die. It's going to die. It's going to shift. It's going to change. It's not going to, you know, everything shifts, everything dies, everything changes. And even my journey with Panther is also about letting go of control over what it is. Even though I'm its curator and founder, it's like, okay.
Can you share a little bit about Panther and what it is?
Yes.
Yes.
So Panther is a shadow work program. So shadow, again, we'll define it as what you don't know, you don't know. And it's based in many different modalities and the sensory elements with art as well. So Panther is a chrysalis for going into everything you fear and exploring it and loving it the whole way through to the other side of freedom. So the goal of Panther is freedom. The tag is free yourself. And so Panther combines different alternative modalities. Breath work, which I've been practicing for 6 years, theta, not too far behind that, astrology, which is my second language, yoga, certified yoga teacher as well, and I'm missing one somewhere in there, Reiki. But really, that's, you know, everything's expands and grows from there. And then different levels of Jungian psychology and somatic therapy. And then we do different levels of art with chromotherapy, light therapy, and sound. So sometimes, basically what it is if someone comes in to see me and they say, hey, here's what's going on. I already have their whole chart. I'm already knowing what's going on. There's already an intake form. And when they come in, I curate an entire program based on where they're at and what they need. And then we experience from there. So that's the individual work of Panther. And then we also run different levels of events, workshops, art, performances of the shadow, different cool things like that. So it's really just a playground where you can be free for people. And that's what I curate, and that's what I hold.
Amazing. Sounds so beautiful. Are you going to be doing much of that while you're in Australia?
Yes, I will. So I'll be speaking, of course, with you on the 11th, which I'm super excited about. And just actually, you know, with the Gold Coast, I mean, Sam and I have been talking to the audience. Sam and I have been talking about what events to do up in the Gold Coast for Panther for a few months now, and just really feeling into what is in the highest and best. And when I arrived, it was just super clear that I just really need to listen to what it is that they need and how can I serve and follow that Chiron energy. So I will be doing an event in the Gold Coast. Stay tuned for that, more information. I have a weekend retreat in Sydney on January 25th and 26th, which is called Embracing the Darkness. And I'm running it with my dear, beautiful, wonderful friend, Ramya Jade, who is in Dancing Eros and founded Liberated Woman, which is her own program. And she is an incredible woman of the shadow as well. She's done a ton of work. She's no stranger to this. This is a long time for her. And the medicine she brings along with mine is in super alignment. And we're super excited to run this. It's for men and for women. And we'll be diving in on all the different levels of Panther methodology. Ram's going to be doing an entire breakdown on the second chakra, all the shadows around sex. But yeah, I mean, I have chills. I'm super excited about that. And that's in Sydney, 25, 26. And also, maybe we can talk about too, Sam, about maybe to your audience doing a little promo if they want to buy tickets, if they're in Sydney. I'm happy to extend that to your audience for sure.
Sure, come back through and you can post anything in the links if you want to, like in the comments or whatever for people.
Yeah,
for sure.
And then February 1st, I'll be in Melbourne. I'll be running the Shadow Experience there. Stay tuned for more. But I'm very excited about the guests that will be joining. I'll speak more later on that, but that's going to be the whole performance art. I'll be running a breathwork set, a cacao ceremony, and then we're going to be literally emerging from our bodies in this entire shadow experience with some really cool things. And until that cements, I won't speak on it too much. And then, of course, the Gold Coast event, which we're working on, which is slated for the 8th of Feb. As of now, I know we've been back and forth on a million dates. It's the date we're looking for. But so yeah, so we'll see. So either running something on the Gold Coast, that'll be a full Panther immersion. We can do a whole astrology download. So let's see what happens. And I'll be up on the Gold Coast around the Brisbane area and Byron for about a week around the event anyway. So let's tune in and see what comes from there. And then also I'll be holding private sessions with people, a limited amount, but I will be doing exclusive one-to-ones as well.
Super cool. I'm so excited to see and experience some of these sessions. So really looking forward to that. That was a tangent. So I'm going to tangent back to the questions. It was a very exciting tangent. But because you opened you're talking about Panthers, so I thought I'd just open the question of tell me more, because otherwise it makes a bit more sense then. That's awesome. Okay, coming back to our questions, is the last one sort of looking back, which is what's the most leadership most important leadership trend that you saw rising in the last decade?
Leadership trend.
Mm.
Wow. Okay. So what's been the most interesting in leadership has been obviously the rise of social media. And inside social media, we're having all these different people that now have platforms to speak their message, for better or for worse, in many different ways, right? So it's about that level of freedom to be able to do that. I mean, I say freedom with a caveat, we're all slaves to the algorithm. But I think on the shadow side of it, obviously there's a lot of distortion in social media and a lot of confusion onto what a leader is. I think leader is a really interesting word. You know, how do we define that? I think some people would define leader as influencer. You know, are they influencers? Are they actual people? You know, as a leader, someone who's holding space and taking action? You know, what does that look like? I think defining leader for the younger generation, for the Gen Ys, for the Plutos and Sag, I think that's really important right now because there's so much information that's just flooded. You know, for the younger millennials and for the, you know, the new ones, the Pluto and Sag, I think defining what leader is for them, I think is really going to be what happens next. I mean, there's so many different ways now to have a platform that everyone's kind of a self-proclaimed leader in some way. So what I think is really interesting is how do we define authenticity in leadership?
Yeah, for sure. How do we sort of cultivate and reward and nourish the kinds of leadership that we want to see? Like, how do we honor when people are doing what really adds value to the world? So.
Value. Okay, this is important too because we started to talking about the different level, the belief systems around money too in Australia. Mm-hmm. Your values are where your money goes. Mm-hmm. And people swear up and down all the time. Okay, for example, let's just say someone says, my values are my family, my partner, or my kids, or my values are my growth. My value is, you know, my company, whatever it is your value is, you know, safety, security, growth, family, whatever that is. But if your money doesn't support that, then that's not actually what your value is, right? Your value is where you spend the dollar. If you value growth and you're not spending money on that, you're not giving yourself that experience, then it's actually not, you're not living your value. It's just what you think you should be doing rather than actually what your value is. And whatever your value is, it's cool. If your value is your style and the way that you look and how you present, if that's a value to you, if you're, you know, if your beauty and your health, you know, that's all good. Own it. Just own it so you can rise and be that in your level of authenticity with it.
Awesome.
But if you say, I'm a leader in X, Y, and Z field, and your money's not flowing through your value system to that area, you're not a leader. And being a leader is, there's so many people that want to be a leader until you are, and then you realize that it comes with so much responsibility and such a variety of skill sets that need to be maintained and nurtured at all times, and requires you as a leader to be more vulnerable than you ever have in your life. And asking for support, which for me is something I always check myself on because I'm not great at asking for support. So for me, I'll burn out. So for me, it's, you know, hey, this is what I need. And this is what I'm asking for. So how can you support these leaders? Show up, fund them, come to their events, share their work. You don't have the money? Cool. Share it on Facebook, share it on Instagram, like it, comment it, share it with a friend. Take something that we say and bring it into your heart and share it with someone else. That's support.
Like there's no like words. just like like I'm with you. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, like make it part of you and
Yeah.
pass it on. Hmm. Well, gosh, time flies in these things. This is amazing.
How
So
much, what's our time?
we are at, it's 10:20 for me, so I'm guessing it's 11:20 for you.
Okay, so we're almost up. Oh, look, there's someone on. Eloise. Hi, Eloise.
Yeah,
I caught my phone, keeping an eye.
on the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question we've got is we're going to shift gears and start looking forward now.
Right?
And the first one is, so what's new and exciting for you in 2020? And you can be you or you can be like collective, however you want to answer.
How do I answer? What's new and exciting for 2020? There's so much shifting in my personal structure. I'm not, I'm not immune to the restructuring of 2020. So wait, technology just did something weird. And there I am. Okay. So just as I said, personal restructuring, I love it. So I am actually going to be doing a lot more touring next year. I'm bringing through also, I started an event and a nonprofit in 2011. That's been dormant for a while. When Fukushima happened, it's called Day of a Thousand Cranes, and the benefits go to kids. So that's a whole amazing piece. I won't speak too much on it, but I'm bringing that back and to funnel into some of the work. Kids are really, really important to me, and allowing kids to be safe is really important to me. I've also done Panther Kids program in a public school in Brooklyn. So I'm looking forward to getting back in the classroom and helping kids reconnect with where they're safe. And the kids, a lot of the kids that I connected with last time, they're from the housing projects, a lot of them. So they don't know a lot about safety at home. They kind of like, a lot of them are in foster care, or they don't, they don't really have access to what a tuning fork is. I mean, they don't know. And they're so darling and so wonderful, and taking them through guided steps and helping them understand is really important. So I wanted to shift gears a little bit and put some more energy back into those spheres. I'll definitely be in Europe this summer. We'll see what that unfolds. I'm contemplating leaving New York full time next year. So uprooting some of that, possibly doing a brick and mortar, and then coming in and out and setting that up. So there's just a lot. There's so much in the cloud right now, and also slowing down. So which means I get to be very selective in what it is that I'm working on. And for me, the personal motto really is receiving support and going where that flows. Life is not meant to be difficult. Just meant to be growth and challenges, but it's not meant to be difficult. So how can I simplify? How can I serve? How can I get back into my heart with the kids' projects in that way I miss? And, what's the next level way and platform that I can put myself out there further to be able to do that?
Yeah, that's really really gorgeous and beautiful, like sort of seeing that path, even though you said it's unstructuring a little bit or restructuring, that's there. We had Kathleen shared again, she said aha, relative, I'm on the board of a child contact center here in Brisbane North called Kids Reunited. And another comment was around the interesting touch on leadership and questions of how leadership will change to guide, inspire, and model for our younger generation. Real thank you for opening that up that's from Danielle.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Kathleen.
Yeah, it's awesome. So from that space, I guess this one's a little bit more of an easier question because it's already opened a bit, is what sort of projects are you working on or want to be working on over the next decade?
I'm going to go year by year.
Okay, for sure. That's so good.
I'm going to go year by year. I think that everything we say is going to happen right now is volatile.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it's most important to, again, just really listen. And I have those intentions and those things that I want to work on and what I want to do. And the core vision I had with Panther since its conception, and the events that I want to create in terms of the experience and what I feel it should look like. There's some really amazing larger scale projects that I'm working on that I can't speak on yet. Because again, it's like, let's see what goes on the next couple of months, even rather than next year. But I'm really excited about it. It's so interesting. I am getting out of New York, and just as I decide, I'm okay, we're out of New York full time, people show up and they ask me to apprentice, and really want to learn. And for me, I take the work that I do so ungodly serious. I say that as a running joke, ungodly serious. And I think the evolution of what Panther looks like as the official process, I'm listening to. Meaning, I'm not going to teach something fully unless it's really ready for me to be able to. I don't have the words at the moment. It's such volatile, deep work, and to teach people and have that structure is an honor and a privilege. It's also something, again, I take really seriously. So let's see how that pans out in terms of if I decide to take that on soon or set up a school, or an actually, I think there's so much out there that's unaccredited. And not that getting into the whole, like, what's accredited, what does that mean, where does the wisdom come from, what's the difference between the traditional degrees or the wisdom we get through our downloads, what does that look like? I think also it's setting a bar for something, and the bar that I set in my work is very high, and I'm going to continue to do that. So I would say in the next 10 years, the bar will continue to be exceptionally high. The creative projects I continue to work on will be high, and definitely big scope. I don't do things small. So it's definitely, the energy I bring is big and full. So the projects I work on are going to continue to be that way, and I'm going to continue to aim on that level to bring the work at the collective scale that I want it to be. And it's not going to be typical either. So I'll leave it at that.
I will be watching. I'm very curious to see how that unfolds.
Awesome. And I would love to hear more too from Kathleen about the kids and what she's working on too. So I'll send her a message.
Sounds really good. Last couple of questions. We're going to do a bit of time travel, if that's cool.
Yep.
So I would love you're at 39 now. If you would zip forward 10 years to 2030. So we've got Kira at 49.
I don't have the answer for you, love.
I haven't asked the question yet.
I don't know what it's going to look like in 10 years. That's the lesson right now.
I'm not, well, we won't ask what it looks like. Like, what I would love is if you can look out of your eyes or feel in that body and you think back on the last decade, what's been the most important question for leaders, for humans wanting to help and make a difference?
What's been the most important question?
Yeah.
For leaders?
Yeah. How do we create this new energy? Like those of us on that team of leadership.
Collaboration. I think there's a lot of good intention in people with wanting to collaborate and build, quote unquote, conscious communities. I think it also has a toxicity to it because they become closed circuit. And I mean, even talking about literal like housing communities, like we're going to build housing communities, we're going to grow on food. It's just another closed loop. It's like some of the most beautiful centers in the world are also in the Aquarian shadow of being behind, because they're closed loop. They're so busy protecting and so busy afraid. I think closed circuit loop communities also have a lot of fear around them. I think our work is bringing it out. I think it's so important to do that. So it's got to be through collaboration and understanding and uplifting one another and supporting leaders.
Mm. So from that future perspective, remembering back, how well did we do that?
Stay tuned.
Okay, awesome. And then the final question, again, similar from that remembering, is apart from collaboration, what's another really important leadership trend that sort of rose during that decade?
Truth, authenticity, and courage. Because that's actually the three pillars inside Panther. We operate from truth, courage, and authenticity to freedom. That's the gateway. So if we're going to do this, that's the way it's going to be. And leaders also need to remember to shut up. Stop talking so much. Stop creating noise. Listen. Listen, be discerning. It's not so much about volumes of content. That's falling into the trap of the consensus model. Stay away. Be selective. Tune in. People are bombarded with information and they're tired of it. And it's overload, and they're sick. They're literally sick. Our bodies are sick. It's too much. So stop talking. Listen. And when you have something to say that really is not about the personal process, but it's about, what's really happening, what the core is, what that authentic piece of truth is that matters beyond this moment. Share that. What lives on beyond us. Creating spiritual ego, brand identity, like, who cares? Let's just continue to evolve.
I love that. And I think when I look at, if we come back to sort of maybe government and political leaders, like, not that that's necessarily the benchmark for every day, because we're not seeing all the behaviors we like, but when we look around the world at the leadership that does really draw our hearts, it is that truth and courage, and just being able to speak for the parts that matter. It's not overly dramatic or wordy or convincing us. It's human. It brings the kindness. It cuts through to the needs of people, and really authentically is doing we don't have all the answers, but this matters. So how can we help with that? And it's really interesting. Like, the question of leadership, for me particularly, is when I look at leadership, I tend to really separate these worlds of people in governance and people bringing something else through their business or their message or whatever. And I think it was yesterday's interview with Dane. He actually said, but our leaders are like the sum of our collective projections of what we deserve. Like, we get the leadership we deserve. And so it was like, oh, fuck, that hurt. But to look at, like, if we've got questions about responsible use of resources or whatever, how are we using our resources? How are we caring for our community? Are we prepared for crisis in our own lives? To sit there and point the fingers at government and say, you guys aren't prepared for crisis. It's like, well, am I? Have I shared back to my community and said, are we?
Yes.
And then keep, like our systems grow from inside out if we let them. And
it all starts with the individual.
Yeah.
Carl Jung's biggest teaching. He's an individualist.
Yeah.
That's what this
amazing, because he spoke so much about the collective, but it is that
he's an individualist. You know, he talks about that statistics are we can't listen to statistics because statistics doesn't give way to the individual choice. Yeah. And that at any single moment, the individual can choose something totally different and break the status quo.
Yeah. Yeah. And every individual could choose something different at the same time. And you'd have a whole new statistic.
Yes. Brilliant. Yeah, that's it. So, you know, and that's the thing too, I think about government or any kind of leader. It's like, you know, that person needs to have the desire to speak for the masses. If they want to say, okay, what's best for the collective and make those decisions. And I'll leave with this, right? I think it's an interesting question. Is it about having leaders that decide what's best for everyone, or in some sort of democracy where the masses or the consensus population decides what's best for everybody? Or is there another way? I don't want to decide what's best for everybody. That's not the kind of, you know, role I offer. You know, I'm fully Aquarian in this. I'm about the individual development. That's my role. And I'll speak and I'll talk and I'll educate and I'll be there and I'll hold it down. I'm not here to make decisions for you.
Definitely. It's that how do we rework the shared spaces?
Exactly. How do we restructure?
Yeah. Oh. Any final words on our Saturn Pluto preparation or experience, or what might unfold, or what to expect in our lives?
Not at the moment. I will be doing some videos and perhaps doing a live podcast from Uluru when I'm there. So stay tuned for that. Follow it on Instagram. The Panther Process is the Instagram handle. thepantherprocess.com is the website. Very easy. So, but I'll be doing some videos there and hopefully some podcasting and just sort of tuning in with my friend Johnson, and who's a wonderful also speaker and beautiful human in many different ways, in the way that we like, the way that we receive. So stay tuned for that. So I'll be in prep for that, and I'll let you know how it's going for the downloads for the Pluto Saturn.
Amazing. Okay. Well, I will keep an eye out for that. I'm super keen to hear. The Saturn Pluto. Anyway, Saturn Pluto, that's right on my ascendant. So I'm kind of like, I'm already starting to notice everything's shifting in how my world looks and how I feel like things are perceiving. So
is it on the 12th house of your ascendant or the first? Is it inside the first or on the 12th?
It's going to be, I think it's at 23 degrees and mine is like they're 24. So it's in the 12th.
So when Jupiter hits it though, it'll be in the first.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be the whole restructuring of your identified ego.
Yeah.
When Pluto went into my first house, I dyed my hair black for 13 years. I was like, I'm going Hades. I'm going all the way. That was, I mean, because that's your identity, first house, right? It's your ego, it's your identity. So here we go. Sam 2.0.
Well, it could be at least 3.0, but sure. There's a few variations. The next one coming. Awesome. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for this amazing share. And I have loved these reflections, and so keen to see more, and particularly what you bring from being out at Uluru, from being in this country, and from being able to take a breath, you know, slow down the New York pace a little, let some of our Australian obsession with the holiday lifestyle catch up with you. And
Oh, girl, I could use it. I'm excited. I'm fully excited, and I'm super excited to see you on the 11th
yeah,
and
that'll be wonderful.
panel. And yeah, so and yeah, just connect with the whole group there. And I'm going to let the group also really, I'm anxious to hear their feedback and what it is that the audience really wants to learn from me, so I can best serve when I do the events up there. So I'm open.
Okay, thanks for that.
Awesome.
Have an amazing day. Talk soon.
Bye, darling.
Bye.